The Five Rings Podcast with Duane Rollins and Kevin Laramee on the Sports Podcasting Network. Follow us and listen to us live on Twitter at Five Rings Podcast and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Sports Podcasting Network for more content.
And good day, good night, welcome to the Five Rings Podcast for Day 3. I'm Kev Laramee, joined by Duane Rollins as always, and today we're going to review the third official day of competition in the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games. But first, Duane, how are you today?
I'm starting, my body is starting to get used to what it's going to have to be used to for the next little while. So I feel I'm a little tired, but I feel a little bit more energetic today and going to get some sunshine this afternoon and prepare for the grind tonight. But it's a good grind, so it's fun.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm happy. I said I'm happy to. It's day 3, so I haven't hit my day 11. Oh, God, it's almost over blues yet. So this is the sweet spot.
Yeah, Duane usually starts feeling the blues when the athletics starts. Because like, oh no, the second week is here. So that's when Duane starts to actually get the blues of the Olympic blues. We should make a song about it.
Yeah, I think it's something everyone. I think there's a lot of people that love Christmas that really, when they wake up on Boxing Day, they start to feel sad when they see the sales. I mean, there's all this. It's just a natural human reaction for something you love. But I really don't have long to wait for the next one this time, so I'll think I'll get through it.
You should be through it just fine. Of course, we'll give you our wood, poutine, bronze, silver, and gold medal of the day for Day 3. If you're brand new to the show, welcome to the Five Rings Podcast, the longest running Olympic podcast ever since Sochi. We've been daily throughout Olympic Games. And Duane, we're going to give some great medals today. We have some great stories to talk about. But before, let's talk about a couple of topics before we go into our medals. Of course, it was a fast day for Canada. First ever judo medal on the women's side for Canada. Jessica Klimkate. She is the defending world champion at under 57 kilogram, and she wanted gold. She lost in the semi and eventually ended up with a bronze medal. She's still disappointed, but it's an historic medal for Canada. First women judo medal ever, and it's not a small feat.
No, and Canada has a little bit of history in judo, as you mentioned, on the men's side, and for the women to get one is good. World champion coming in, didn't quite convert that, but still on the podium. She was very philosophical when she was talking about it after, which is kind of a difference in Canadian athletes and attitudes in the last 10 years. And I was tweeting about this yesterday. It got a little traction about how this generation of Canadian athlete really only knows a Canada that's successful at the Olympics, whereas the previous generation grew up when, we have 4 medals already, and sometimes we wouldn't have 4 medals till like day 11 itself. And we might have 8.
I remember waking up and be like, yeah, we finished 47th. Well, in the triathlon, which is the case, or in other sports, like, oh yeah, 47th. We finished 21st, best Canadian result ever in whichever insert athletics competition here. So that's a big difference, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, 20 is a realistic target, I think, medal-wise, if you want to talk about that now. But a bronze medal is a success. It is. Like, that's never discount that. You get on the podium. It's a success. The swimmer this summer that finished 4th, yes, she's 14 friggin' years old. So obviously that's successful. But,
She finished 4th at 14. Summer McIntosh, she's not in our medals today. Canadian, she finished, it was the 400 meters freestyle, I believe, that she finished 4th at. And in one of the most difficult race and one of the longest race, of course, there's the 1500 meters, which we're going to talk about Katie Ledecky tonight and tomorrow. First time ever, finally, that the women are racing that long distance, and Katie Ledecky probably going to do a great job with that gold medal there. But for Canada, that young 14-year-old, you're right, that's a honorable mention today.
Yeah, for sure. And look, the point I was making is that we have greater expectations now. So that bronze medal match, I watched that. I had my nap when it kind of lulls at around 1. I usually take a nap till about 3:30. So I literally woke up and turned to it. and watched it, and her reaction to the bronze was satisfaction, but not overjoyed, because that wasn't a shock bronze. That was okay, I got a bronze.
Yeah.
The commentary's reaction wasn't like it would have been 15 years ago, where it would have been like, break away, and we're going to go live to her parents, and it was just a bronze, and it was covered as such. And if you're listening in the States or in Britain or places that are used to winning 30, 40 medals or 100 in the States case in an Olympics, you same type of thing. You might find that weird, but here, no, it is, and it's a change in attitude, and it's a refreshing change in attitude, because this is an elite sport. And look, we're not discounting her bronze medal by any means. It's absolutely a wonderful accomplishment to win an Olympic medal. To be to the Olympics is a wonderful accomplishment. Lots of different ways to win, but there's one way in particular to win, and that's to actually win, and that's clearly what this Canadian team very much is looking to do, and it's nice to see.
One Canadian team that is struggling to win so far in these Olympic Games is the Volleyball Canada team. On the men's side, they've lost their second game in a row. After winning the first 2 sets in their opening match against Italy in the preliminary round, they have lost the following 3. They had a point there. They were facing Japan yesterday, or day 3 on today, and they got the first set and then lost the next 3. They did not get a point. They lost against the host. And it was a must-win, looking at how this is going to be. With the best third and the way this preliminary round is going to shape up, it's going to be very difficult now. Canada is going to have to beat teams that are ranked above them in the international landscape of volleyball to be able to just make it out of the group stage.
I know a few people in the volleyball world. We've had Gavin Day on the show before. He's a guy that's done commentary with the Canadian volleyball program before. I spoke to him a little bit during the Italy game, and I spoke to a friend of mine who coaches in the Canadian university system for women's volleyball. And they both kind of said the same thing when it comes to this Canadian men's volleyball team. They think it's good, and it's made one of the best Canadian volleyball teams that existed, but they do have some fatal flaws, and their biggest fatal flaw is that they have the way that they need to win makes it very difficult for them to close out teams. They can win 2 sets against teams, but winning that third set, when the teams start to adjust to what they're doing, becomes very difficult. They rely on sort of smart blocking, which is sort of tricking the other team a little bit sometimes and throwing them off. So by the time you play 2 sets, you start to get used to it. So for them to find a different approach to win that third set, to close out a game is difficult, and their struggles are showing here. Now, look, they're the 10th ranked team in the world, and they finished 9th in the Nations League this year. So this is about their level, right? I mean, there's 12 teams in this tournament, and only 8 make the knockout round, and they're ranked 10th. So, they're about doing what you would expect based on their ranking. This was a sad one today because Japan was a team, because of their host status, that was below them. So, you still, and they don't have a home crowd behind them. So you would have hoped that you could have got that one. And obviously coming off the heels of what was a very nice performance for half of the Italy game, and it really was, it's a disappointing performance, but we shouldn't dwell too much on the 12th place team or the 10th place team here, but they're Canadian. We are. So we did. And it's upsetting. And look, the Canadian women's basketball team lost this morning too. They're ranked 4th in the world, so that's a little more upsetting, although they lost to the defending bronze medalist, so it's a very even match game. You would hope they can recover from that. The Canadian softball team has lost a second game, missed out on a chance to play for gold. So the team sports are still not quite firing on all cylinders, unless the women's soccer team can do it.
Which they can, right? They can, and we saw good results so far, and they have played. Duane is very critical with our Canadian women's national team, but the result this year actually encouraging, and we'll talk about that tomorrow on Soccer Today. Will be an Olympic-focused Soccer Today, so if you're a fan of the Five Rings podcast and you like to hear us talk about Olympic tournaments, tomorrow on Soccer Today we'll dedicate the entire show on the women and the men's Olympic tournament. Duane, let's get into it. Let's strap ourselves in. Let's give our first medal of the day, and of course we're talking about a wood medal, and today the wood medal goes to a media boat, blocking triathletes, forcing the men's triathlon to be restarted after a false start. But the false start was none of the athletes' fault. It was a freaking boat blocking about 10 athletes from going straight right off the block. And that is not okay, not fair, not in the Olympic spirit. Then you see boats start to race after the athletes and then turn in front, block everybody, like, wait, we got to restart. Imagine the adrenaline dump that the athlete must have felt there. And they said, no, you got to go back on the dock and then jump again. The legs must have felt like a ton of bricks. This is not an ideal way to start an endurance sport.
No, it certainly isn't. And, someone screwed up, clearly. Logistically speaking, it is very difficult to run a multi-sport event. And there will be mistakes. You hope the mistakes don't impact the competition ultimately. And this one did, undoubtedly. Now, they're lucky that it happened in a triathlon, a race that is quite long. So there was an opportunity for them to overcome that. And even though, those athletes probably would have been distracted and frustrated, but by and large, their bodies were able to compensate for it and move forward in a race that long. But, hopefully someone learned and we can have a little laugh at it now and move forward. But yeah, no, it underlines how much effort goes into making these competitions work, and little things like when that boat was supposed to go. There was probably someone's job who was responsible for making sure that boat had a specific path that it had to follow, and someone had to follow that path and they had to follow it at the right time to make sure that it all runs interchangeably. And, make mistakes will happen. I've been reading some journalist tweets, as you do, and they are saying that the bus systems and the transportation systems between venues and that is not actually that efficient compared to other games, which surprised them because they were anticipating that it would be. So probably some COVID issues in there causing problems. But, it's early days too. Competitions tend to work this stuff out as they go along. I wouldn't expect many more mistakes. Sure, the people running this, the local organization committee is probably going to be having a conversation about that and making sure it doesn't happen again.
Hopefully it doesn't happen again, and this time in the women's triathlon, because if the same mistake happens twice, well, definitely a problem. Now let's go to our poutine medal of the day, Duane. It is a big deal for us in Canada because Brent Hayden, 37 years old, makes his return on the Olympic stage in the men's 4x100 meter freestyle relay. They finished just off the podium, fourth, but it's a new Canadian record, 3 minutes, 10 seconds, and 82 hundredth of a second. It was very close to a medal. They could have finished fifth too. It was really close. But Brent Hayden, Joshua Leando Edwards, Yuri Cassill, and Marcus Thormeyer, Canadian swimmers with the best ever 4x100 meters freestyle, and so close to a medal.
Yeah, look, Brent Hayden was the bearer, like the only hope for a lot of Olympics, for both Beijing and Athens. He was basically holding that entire team up by himself. He was the only legit medal hope, in particularly Beijing. He was the guy that had to, lead everyone and be the face of the sport for the country during its absolute lowest ebb. If you do not remember Canada swimming, which was a proud, punching above its weight program up until, through the 90s and into the start of this century, and then just fell in really hard times. And he was the one guy that sort of was there at those hardest times and was out there and always did the meeting and all that. So it's really nice to see a guy like that get out and to be able to compete with the young guys still. He had two great legs, both in the heats and the final last night. So he's clearly still got some speed in the pool. I don't know if it's medal speed anymore, but it's just nice to see an athlete like that had such a big impact during a low time. And you've got to have those leaders get you through those low times so that next generation comes through with some hope and, some hope and opportunity. And clearly they are.
Well, the other relay partners of Brent Hayden were mentioning that the fact that they have their idol with them, because for Canadian swimmers, when they were kids, he was the one swimming. For some of them, it was their inspiration heading into that career path and that sport and that decision to choose swimming. And to have him as a teammate of them, not only a teammate, but also a life teammate, lifestyle coach. He's with you. He's showing you around, sharing experience from prior games, from prior deceptions, from tough, difficult moments, and then glory too, and helping them navigate the different ups and downs of an Olympic athlete during the game, before the game, getting ready to, and just qualifying for. Those are all contribution that Brent Hayden is sharing with the team now that took him more than 2 decades to acquire, and the fact that that knowledge is being passed on. Canada Swimming and everyone should be really not only happy with this result, but also we should be very sincerely grateful to Brent Hayden for sharing all this with the next generation.
100%. And look, as a final thought, he also was the Canadian swimmer that proved that Canada wasn't just about the strokes, that they could freestyle as well. The freestyle is the glory events. And like Canada used to do a lot back in the bad old days, we tended to focus on events that had less competition, to be blunt. That was a way that they saw to game the system. Like, the joke for a long time is when a new sport came into the Olympics, bet on the Canadian, because they probably had a program running for 10 years before the rest of the world knew what it was. So they'd be ahead for that one Olympic cycle, because we tried to win in places where no one else was. We don't do that so much anymore. In fact, we go quite the opposite. Our funding is set up to reward past success and drill down on people that are competing at the highest levels. But nonetheless, we didn't freestyle. Alex Bauman, Victor Davies, these guys, they were but they're breaststrokers primarily. Alex Bauman was an individual medley swimmer. They did the more technical aspects. The backstroker in Beijing. Oh my God, not Beijing, in Barcelona. How am I not remember his name right now? Anyway, big teeth. You know what I'm talking about.
Tewksbury, Mark Tewksbury.
Thank you. Sorry, lovely teeth, Mark. And you're very inspirational to me. But anyway,
isn't he the president of the COC? I think he is
very, very involved. And when I went to Barcelona, I went purposely and found the swimming pool so I could go in and see the list of gold medals, and I have a photo of me standing beside his name in Barcelona. So there you go. But he was backstroker. Like that's where we won the medals in the pool in the past. When Hayden came in the 2000s, no, he was like, I'm a freestylist. I'm gonna go play with the big boys and try and win that glory event, the 100. And he did. He got medals in that, and he in the 50 he went with the fastest men in the world. And it's kind of like in track, the 100-meter. When you have a 100-meter sprinter, it kind of feels like you walk a little stronger when you're in that big event, when you're in the marquee event. And he did that. He was the one that broke through in that.
Yeah, you walk. You're a little taller. So you walk a little taller and you feel a little bit better about it yourself. And it is understandable. Now it's that time of the show where Duane and I will catch our breath for a second. We'll get ready because after this short break, we're going to give you our favorite performances of day number 3. Our bronze, our silver, and our gold medal. And for the first time, we're going to debut our very own medal standings of course, the Tokyo 2020 Games. So we're going to give you a standing of the top 5 medal count at the end of the show. But first, we'll be right back after this short break. You are listening to the Five Rings Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Five Rings Podcast. Podcast version available at sportspodcastingnetwork.com. You can give us a subscription on our YouTube page, and on our channel you'll find daily video replay of the Five Rings Podcast at youtube.com/sportspodcastingnetwork. You want to support us financially and contribute to the well-being of the network. Patreon.com/sportspodcastingnetwork. And we're back on the Five Rings Podcast. Kev Laramee with Duane Rollins as always. And by the way, you can follow us on Twitter. Duane's at 24th Minute and myself at Kev Laramee. Duane, when we look at this whole day of competition, day number 3, we'll remember a few moments. And of course, I could have chosen a 13-year-old skateboarder to have in our show. We'll have plenty of time to break down these type of moments later on. But there was more important moment. And let's start with our bronze medal. And you know, we plug our YouTube channel and we talk about social media. We plug our Twitter all the time. And more every Olympic Games, we're seeing the evolution of today's athlete. Today's athlete is not only waiting for the regular channels to talk about them and make them superstars. Today's athletes are entrepreneurs and they take things into their own hands or their own cameras and create an ecosystem of their own fan base. And my bronze medal today, Duane, is a pommel horse athlete. He's a gymnast. He's the best gymnast ever coming from Ireland. He's the first, regardless of gender here, he's the first Irish gymnast to make it to a final. And he's a YouTube superstar. Trending everywhere right now. Reese McClanagan, congratulations for finishing first of the qualification in pommel horse. 15.266, amazing score, but also an amazing YouTube star. I invite you after the show to check out his channel and to listen to his comments. Duane, he keeps saying this one thing. And how he performs, first of all, he's the most fluid athlete I've ever seen on a pommel horse. You watch him and he looks like a drop of water. He's so fluid. It's unbelievable. But he says, I'm going to be undeniable. I'm going to be so good that no one is going to deny me that gold medal. I'm going to be so fluid and so good above everybody else that undeniably you're going to let me pick up that gold medal and put it around my own neck.
My favorite gymnastic day, I should say, is the individual apparatuses final days, because I just like that format of 8, one routine, highest score wins. I just think it's kind of that sport in the purest term. I find the team competition, which is occurring right now, a little much, to be honest. I mean, there's a lot, and you have to really be a hardcore gymnastics person to fully appreciate it. I tend to watch the gymnastics in the early days more on a highlight form than I do live, but this is a guy that understands sort of that brief moment, and it makes sense that if he knows how to manage his socials and make himself a star in a country that's, has its own sporting code that they love and are boxing fans, right? That's what Ireland's known for. Has managed to break through in that noise in a sport that's niche there. Then, he clearly knows what he's doing, and he also has probably figured out a long time ago that his best chance to ever find true success in the sport would be to focus on one activity and do it really, really well. That social kind of teaches you that. Briefly, before I continue, Kevin, I have recently increased my Instagram output. It's going to be a goal of mine to increase Instagram. So you could also follow me on Instagram at 24th Minute. We never post my Insta. It's not really soccer related. It's more selfies of me, but nonetheless,
it's the same. Also, you can follow me on Instagram. It's the exact same way. So as you can see on our screen right now, at Kev Laramee for myself, and at 24th Minute for Duane. And how about you take a second and subscribe to the Five Rings Podcast everywhere you find your podcast, for receiving messages of new listener that they're enjoying our content, and we thank you for enjoying this show. And it's been a very good time to do so, and we hope you're enjoying the video aspect, of course, something that I'm really proud of because it's a bit of my little baby. So hopefully you're enjoying this. By the way, we're live on our Twitter feed every time we go live on Five Rings Podcast. So at Five Rings Podcast, if you're wondering, why don't I get the live version? That's where the video is live. So if you're watching us on video on Twitter, we're live. No net, live, just like an Olympic athlete. No second chance, just like a gymnast in a final of an apparatus. But Duane, it's time now. We talk about our second moment of the day, our silver medal, and that happened yesterday. And ever since Rio, there's a new energy in swimming Canada. And Penny Oleksiak, a surprise gold medal in 2015, well, in 2014 when she was 15, 2016, has brought a new energy, confidence, And she showed the blueprint, literally, to other swimmers. And one that took that blueprint and swam the exact same first 50 meters and then very similar time in the second 50 to replicate the success of a Penny. Maggie McNeil, gold medal in the 100-meter butterfly. New Canadian record, 55:59. Maggie Gold, as I'll now refer to her forever, has made us smile last night.
Yeah, I mean, we could pick a lot of moments in the pool. It was a brilliant session in the pool last night, and we saw world records. We saw, legendary athletes be defeated for the first time ever. We'd already talked about the 4x1. We are Canadians, so allow us to be indulgent here for ourselves. This is 2 Olympics in a row where we've got a gold medal. I think Penny's got a real chance to add another one in there later on.
Tonight, the swimming finals tonight, which means tomorrow, day 4 morning in Tokyo time. But yes, Maggie was something.
Yeah, and the medley relay, I think Canada's absolutely going to be a player in as well. But look, this girl, oh my God, if you're not Canadian, you didn't see her interview, like, you've got to check her out. She is has a unique charm, I'll say. She's the most understated athlete I've ever seen in my life.
So she's like, so how did you feel after you touched the wall? You turned around, how did you feel? Well, I heard my name, so I imagine I did something right. Well, something right you did indeed.
You won the Olympic gold medal.
You beat the new Canadian record, a new America's record. This was the fastest a North American, an American athlete from South America, it's Cap Horn, right? Cap Horn in the bottom. From the Cap Horn to the North Pole, no one has ever swam a butterfly quicker than Maggie last night. Maggie Gold. That one's for you.
Yeah, she's brilliant. I think she's going to be around for a while too. University of Michigan swimmer. She's won NCAA championships down there. She's only going to get better. She's 21. I think she's got 1 more games in her at least, probably. And I suspect that her strength will improve and she may yet take a run at that world record. And that's remarkable. But as I said, look, the only way I could describe her, I know this show's not everyone's cup of tea, but I kind of liked it as dumb comedy to have in the background. She reminds me of, like, she could fit in as a character in the Big Bang Theory. That's what I'll say. She's kind of got that vibe to her, a little bit, a little blunt, a little, you know what I'm talking about here, but good for her. Awesome. And, again, it sort of speaks to what I said earlier, too, though. Like, she wasn't jumping up and down going crazy. Like, she just fulfilled what she expected she could fulfill. Right?
She's obviously the defending world champion in that category. Yeah. She won the world championship in 2019, this exact event, 100-meter butterfly. And when she won last night, too, Duane, she talked about Penny winning in 2016 and how that changed everything. It showed them what was possible. And sometimes it's just that. When you hear everyone saying, oh, you got to believe in yourself, nothing is impossible, and it's one thing to hear that. It's another thing to see someone break through that glass ceiling and show you that the limits you thought existed are just imposed by yourself. And that what happened last night.
Yeah, I mean, look, Penny is a remarkable athlete. Physically, like, look at that arm span that she has, how she's very, very tall. All of those things contribute to her ability to be what she was when she was 16. But her strength as an athlete, her mental strength to get over, like, sort of the massive publicity that she got after that. You can't understand it too, because it's first gold medal in the pool forever. And, she follows it up and there's 3 medals and suddenly she's, on the front page of every newspaper as a high school sophomore,
The way she gets 1 more medal, she becomes part of the 6 club, as I like to call it. So part of the 6 medal club where Klassen, Hughes, and then Alexiak, and then she gets another one. She's the most decorated Olympian of all time. I should add, by the way, with the 5 and 6 medal club, there's the Amelins and the Gaetan Boucher, and there's other names that are not mentioned quite as often as I'd like, because for some reason they often forget to mention the French ones and mention the English ones a bit more in our Canadian sports landscape. Let's not forget the speed skaters that we've had from this province too. But yeah, it's that type of club. Penny can finish these games on top of that Olympic Canadian mountain.
Yeah, I'm a little too young to remember the speed skater from Lake Placid, Boucher. What was his name?
Boucher, Gaëtan Boucher. I wasn't there too, but history and all. So
yeah, and well, yeah, no, you certainly were, but I can actually remember him at Sarajevo. I have very, very, very thin memories of Sarajevo, but I do remember him in that race there. It was an outdoor oval too, I think. Anyhow,
back then they were skating outside. Anyways, long far cry from talking about Maggie. We took a detour at Penny and then at Olympic record holders. And
welcome to the Five Rings podcast. We're talking about the 1984 Winter Olympics randomly in the middle of it.
Where they were doing this outside. Imagine that would be that would not work into 2022, I guess. But congratulations once again to Maggie McNeil, which leaves us only one medal to hand out today. We're giving you a platter, and on top of it is our Five Rings gold medal of day 3, and on it, it's on a platform. It's 10 meters high. It's Tom Daley and Maddie Lee. Sounds like a great band, by the way. Tom Daley and Maddie Lee. I would go to a Liverpool little pub house and watch them, but no, this is a gold medal performance. Men's synchronized diving, Tom Daley, legend in this sport, legend in Great Britain, now joined by Maddie and Golden once again.
Yeah, and Tom Daley, one of the superstars of what remains one of my favorite games of all time. I have a little bit of English heritage, so that was part of it. But anyone who watches London games was absolutely, infected by the passion that clearly was on display every day. And Daly's medals in the pool and on the board were real. Sorry, the high tower were clearly massive cultural touch points for British people, and that, similar to Penny, but in a much more exaggerated way, really put him in the spotlight and in a way that, as a young man, that made it challenging for him. As a young man sort of coming around to his sexuality too, which is an important part of his story, to be out. And one of the few people that was even back then, and so much has changed in those 8 years for the better, but it was a tougher time then. He was going to get looked at differently, and that resulted in him having some struggles in the years following London. And anyone would coming down from going from basically unknown to like a superstar in your country overnight, dealing with the fame, dealing with all of the publicity and the attention that brings, and then you'd have a letdown from that. And he is open, and he emotionally struggled with it. And that resulted in him in Rio not performing to the best of his abilities. And he's, again, has been quite open, and that was part of his head game, his mental game. For him to come at a late point for a diver, divers don't go late in it's especially on the tower. Like the tower, a lot of divers will go down from the tower to the springboard later in their career because it's so hard in their body. He's stayed in it. He's gotten another gold medal, and that's just an awesome, remarkable accomplishment. And I would say that, I'm a big diving fan. I don't know if people know that. I don't really. You might not get that from me if you know that from me, but. I have in my family. I never met her, but there's a distant cousin of my mother that was an Olympic diver. So my mom loves diving. So I've watched diving my whole life. So I really respect the sport. And this one, I think Kevin has an outside chance to right now. It's early, but maybe make my final medals, because it really was a great thing to see an athlete that's gone through so much and in the very highs to get back there again. And whatever happens from here, man, like there's this legendary status in the sport, and a great Olympic moment last night. And beating the Chinese too. The Chinese everyone thought were untouchable. So to beat the Chinese, that's almost deserves a second goal. Anyway, go on.
That's true. And beating the Chinese hegemony at the 10-meter platform is not an easy task, and it took someone just like Tom Daley and Maddie Lee with the experience needed and also the wherewithal to come back. And that story, that human story, is what we're all suckers for at the Olympics. And that's going to be a great one. Let's put an X on our calendar. Let's remember that day for Tom Daley and Maddie Lee, which leads us to our medal standings, Duane, after day number 3. Top 5 of your standings, and the host nation is on top with 8 gold medals. That is quite a tally after 3 days. Of course, we have the 2 skating medals, so that helps a lot, and the 2 judo medals of the Abe siblings on that tally for Japan, so it makes a big difference for Japan. But right now, 8 golds, 2 silvers, and 3 bronze for Japan. The USA is second with 7 gold medals. That's how you rank a medal standings, by the way. Not the total. You put the gold medals. And of course, I still put the total so that we know. And the US has 14 overall medals, 7 gold, 3 silvers, 4 bronzes. Duane, China, 6 gold medals so far. That's going to change. It's going to be a whole lot real soon. 18 total medals, 4 for ROC. Who's ROC? Well, it's that one country who's not allowed to use their full name. And I'm not going to mention that name, but it's ROC. And they are 4th with 4 gold medals, followed by Great Britain, 3 gold medals, 3 silvers, 1 bronze. A little chauvinistic moment. We're 11th in Canada, 1 gold, 2 silvers, and 1 bronze.
And that gold's big for Canada. It's for a Canadian gold. That's not one that they have in the tally. Most people were tallying Canada to before, so to have one early, that's going to take a lot of pressure off some of those people later. Now, they probably, I still think, will end up with 4 or 5, which is good for our country. That's about where we should be. When it comes to the Chinese, especially with Beijing happening, they're going to bet it now. If you have a betting account, put them to win the medal race in Beijing. But
you won't get big odds unless, yes, Beijing is a Winter Games, but just because it's been over a decade now, from 2008 all the way there. So 15 years of solid investment in sports and Olympic sports from the summer to the winter. And we'll see that rub even coming off to the Summer Games, even though next year's the Winter Games. So we'll see that Chinese flag fly high a lot in the next 2 weeks.
It's sport washing, the term, right? You excel in sports to put yourself out there that's the government's perspective, because they are a regime that has total control. They sport wash. They do the Middle East too. We see, countries buying F1 teams in the next few.
Qatar hosting the World Cup. Qatar winning winning quarterfinals of the Gold Cup. And by the way, tomorrow on Soccer Today will be an Olympic-focused show. So if you like the Five Rings podcast, I invite you to watch Soccer Today tomorrow, where Duane and I will break down the Olympic soccer tournament that we'll continue to watch later today. Right now, you can follow Duane on social media at 24th Minute, myself at Kev Laramee, and this show at the Five Rings podcast. You can write us an email with your favorite moments. If you want to share anything, we actually have an email address you can write to, fiveringspodcast@gmail.com. You can reach out personally if you want to do so always. But we'll be back with our Day 4 review in 24 hours. And as always, until then, have a great Olympiad.